Hey everyone, and we are live on Facebook, live on YouTube, Professor and Friends, with my old buddy Ryan from CB Adventure Supply. Ryan, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate you.
No, thanks for having me, Joey.
You betcha, man. I had to put a little clip of that video from More Expo in when Turtleback started doing their live video, and you just busted out the bro pose right there in front. I was like, oh man, I'm like famous now. You're using my pose on Turtleback's live video.
Who is this guy across the aisle from me?
Oh man, it was super cool. I appreciate you doing that. But
no,
hey,
awesome.
we're going to continue tonight. We've talked for 3 weeks straight now, doing a series called Overland 101, and we just been wanting to try to put a few things out there and try to help people understand different things about planning, about using maps, about packing, all kinds of stuff. We did rig builds, and tonight we're going to talk about tents and bedding. And let me tell you, Ryan, I don't know about you, but overlanding itself has just blown my mind, the way that it has exploded in the United States in the last several years. And it seems like the main focus is tents. Everybody wants a tent. Have you seen that in your store?
Yep.
Man, yeah. It's incredible. It's incredible. And just in the last couple of years, there have been, it seems like, new tent companies and manufacturers popping up every week. And it seems like when there used to be a handful of different suppliers out there that made them, now there's just, I tried to Google it today and I couldn't even capture all of them because there were so many.
Yeah. I was talking with Justin from 23Zero about this, I don't know, a couple months ago. And I think he did a rough count and the number was something like 65. And that's just in the rooftop tent manufacturers here in the US. That's, you don't think about it, but man, that's a lot.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I know that there are, copycats. There's, a warehouse that's building tents and putting several different people's names on them, and they change them up just a little bit. And I know that happens, but it's just incredible to see what people have taken with such a small space on the top of a vehicle and how many different variations they can come up with. It just completely blows my mind. And so I want to dive right into it and ask you, because I this is like being on trial and I'm calling my expert witness here. I've got you in here because you do this for a living. I do it.
Yeah.
I hate to say I do it for a hobby. It's more of a lifestyle, but you do it every day. You see it every day and you have your hands on these things every day. So what are the advantages? There's two different styles, if we narrow it down, of tents, and one is hard shell tents and one are soft shell tents. So what would you say that the advantages of a hard shell tent over maybe a soft shell tent is, or vice versa?
So the immediate advantage is the amount of setup time. Hard shell tents typically do go up quicker. They are a little more resistant to wind noise, just because they do have a rigid roof. And if you park the vehicle or trailer correctly, you can block that wind and kind of, so those are the big advantages. Depending on the hard shell, some of them it's a little easier to store extra bedding in. Some it's not, so I wouldn't say that's an advantage, I guess, just because hard shells, it used to be hard shell was, like look at like a Auto Home or James Brown, and then you had like a wedge style, right? But now you've got others out there in the market that are a fold out design. There's there's a hard shell is not just a hard shell. There's kind of a deviance of that, if that makes sense.
Right. What about durability? I've been on several different trips where, and personally, I have an iCamper. It's a hard shell, and it's pretty tough. I've taken it to some pretty enclosed spaces and drug it under trees, and it's got scratches all. I mean, you could tell it's used, and it drives my wife crazy. She wants to go buff it every time we go out there and look at it. But also the guys that I've been with that have had the soft shell have gotten rips and tears. I know those are more easily replaceable and a lot cheaper to replace, but how do you see the durability of the covers?
Yeah, and then you make some valid points there that, you know, with the hard shell, it is a little easier to, you know, take your narrow pathway in the Ozarks and make your truck and tent fit through there because it's, you know, brute force attack there. But I mean, we've been using a soft-sided, you know, tent for, God, 5 or 6 years now. And I haven't had any issues, but I'm, you know, pretty forward thinking. So I think it can be a challenge. I think a lot of it depends on the terrain, right? I mean, if you're on the West Coast, the trails aren't as tight out there. I mean, you got Utah, you know, Arizona, you know, for the most part. So I think some of that's going to be geographical to where the explorer or adventurer lives, right? Or where they adventure on a regular basis. You know, I've been through parts of the Ozarks, and that's pretty tight. And a soft shell tent, yeah, I could see how that could be a challenge, you know.
Yeah, and I also think that people, and I've seen this commented on several different social media sites, is whether they're going to leave it on full time or if they're going to take it off, and how easy it would be for somebody to maybe steal it, or how easy it is to get off, or if they've got a lift, or if it will fit in their garage, or they, you know, or anything like that. It seems like people tend more to go with the hard shells if they're going to leave it on. It's going to be out in the weather all the time, rather than having a soft shell that will fade and weather, and then having to replace the cover. I see those comments quite a bit. Now, if we talk about the hard shells, I know you carry Alucab, and Alucab is, I don't know if I've ever seen a tougher tent out there. It's just unbelievable. Aluminum welded body, and it's just heavy duty. Love those tents, the wedge style. I also love those because they offer two things that most other tents don't have, and that is a rack on top where you can put other things, and they also have the option of being able to mount their awning to the tent instead of mounting it to the roof rack or to the vehicle somewhere.
Well, and the other thing that I think that any aluminum hard shell like that gives you is it gives you storage up there, but for people who are full time or taking long trips, it gives you the ability to put extremely large solar panels up on there. Where with a soft shell tent, you kind of lose that, right? I mean, I've seen guys take their soft shell and they'll have rigid panels or flexible panels that they'll lay on either side of the ladder on the cover, but with a aluminum hard shell wedge style, it makes it super easy, and you can still use the roof rack, right? So, you know, we've adhered the solar panels to the roof of the tent. You slide the load bars over the top of it. While you're driving, typically you're not going to need the solar, you know, because the vehicle's handling the charging at that point. But once you park whatever you got up there, you throw it down in camp, and boom, now you got, you know, somewhere up to 220 watts of solar. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is point it the right direction, and you're capturing that power.
And they're always pointed at the sun, and so it's it's a ease of mind where you don't have to get out a solar blanket and put it up and get it out and put it up and get it out and put it up. So it's you know, it's definitely something that you want to think about. Now, Jeremiah, Overland Pioneers, I had him on last week. He asked, what would you say the percentage of South African and Australian to Chinese tents are on the market?
Man, I don't even want to throw a number at that. I mean, I would say that I would say that the Chinese tents probably are the vast majority here in the US. I don't know that there are any tents that are actually manufactured in Australia. Most of them are China.
Right.
Even the tents available in Australia, most of them are Chinese tents or South
Right.
African. Alu
Right.
Cab, Quick Pitch. They're available in Australia, but they still get manufactured in South Africa.
Well, you have to be really careful in this industry because they'll say that they are designed in Australia or designed in South Africa, and then when you look at see where the parts are made, most of them are made in China. And I would probably throw a really high percentage out there that most of the tents that are on the market today have some part made in China. That's just the way it is. It's really hard to get away from that.
Well, even the textiles, the fabrics, right? I don't know any South African tents. I don't know where they get their textiles from, but there's a high probability that the actual fabrics are sourced from outside South Africa and they're imported and manufactured. There's a possibility. I'm just saying that I know that happens in other parts of the world, where, it might be a tent that's made in Indonesia, but the fabrics come from China.
Right. And I see Jeremiah commented on Rugged Bound. I actually did not know a lot about Rugged Bound until this week. I work a little bit with Chris from More Expo, and Chris just put the Rugged Bound on top of his new rig, and I think Jeremiah's got it on his X Venture too. They're made in South Africa and built like tanks. I mean, they're just and so easy to set up. It's got 2 latches on it. You pop it up and pop a couple tent or stakes or whatever you call them in there to hold the windows open, and they're done.
The spring rods. Yeah, that's a spring rod.
The spring rod. Okay, I didn't know that's why I got you on here. You're the expert. Now on the hard shell, there are other kinds of hard shell, and I've got some pictures up here I wanted to put because like this one, this is a lot like my setup here. This is the iCamper, and I've got the annex just like this. Really like this setup, and I really don't hardly use the annex unless my wife is with me. She wants that privacy. It's not really hard to set up. It's got 2 poles and a couple zippers and clips, and it goes on pretty easy. But if you're overlanding with females, and we really try to talk about that on this show because a lot of guys take their females, and females they really do have a lot of input on what you buy, because if they're not comfortable, they're not going to go. And if you want your wife or kids to go with you, they got to be comfortable. So the one thing I do know about my wife, she likes to have some form of privacy, and this annex here is something that she really likes. Now, another form of hard shell tent are the ones that go just pop straight up, like the James Burrard you were talking about earlier. Now, one really good feature about these, and I've never stayed in one of these, but having a 360-degree view would be really cool. If you like waking up and seeing the sights, waking up, seeing the sunrise or something like that, these are probably something that you might want to look at. But if you are one like me that has a wife that wants an annex, it's really hard, almost impossible to put one on here.
Yeah.
And let's see, I've got a couple more. I think this is another one like James Burrard puts out there. Multiple points that go up. Has a lot of room, a lot of headspace. But there again, if you're wanting an annex, it's not really available for one of these.
Yeah, well, and the advantage on that style of hard shell, like say a James Burrard or Auto Home, is the weight savings. So when you're looking at something like that versus Rugged Bound or Alu Cab or Quick Pitch, the weight difference is going to be significant. So you'll see some of your lighter, more agile vehicles tend to lean that direction just because the amount of weight that they save on the roof. Because that's a big thing. We tend to overload our vehicles. Not because we want to. It's just an inherent. I'm trying to think of the right words to use. It happens, right? We just want to take everything, and we want to be comfortable, and we weight needs to be a factor, whether we choose to accept it or not.
It's been a common saying about people that go camping. Glamping wouldn't even be a word if we didn't try to take everything in the kitchen sink with us. And my wife and I have actually spent quite a bit of time over the winter culling things and figuring out things that we don't use and don't need, and trying to shave off that weight. And that was another reason why we went with the iCamper, because the PVC plastic is quite a bit lighter than the welded aluminum. And if you out there want to know the difference in weight, go to More Expo or Overland East and help some of these guys like Ryan and the other vendors pick up those tents and load them up and unload them. And because let me tell you, last year when I helped Aaron pack up his stuff and take back to Artemis, I helped him pack up some of those alu cabs and quick pitches. And I was like, oh my gosh, these things are heavy. And I know some FJ owners out there who have those on their vehicles, and I can't imagine. There's got to be at least 100 pounds weight difference, and putting that much weight way up high has got to make you think. If I'm going off camber, I really need to think about this. If I'm going to go down Black Bear Pass or some of these that really have the off camber, you really got to be conscientious about how much you put up there. I see all these guys that are over in Brazil and Peru, and they put like 7 5-gallon fuel tanks all the way across the top of their vehicle. And I'm thinking, man, I'm adding up the weight on that, and I'm thinking that's like 500 pounds of fuel up there. It's just unbelievable. But I guess it's just a whole different world over there. But now moving from the hard shell to the soft shell tents, we have a couple different options when you look at them. This is one 23-0. I believe this is a walkabout. This is the big one.
That's the old style. That's the Sydney is what it used to be called. It's equivalent to the walkabout 87 that's out there today.
Yeah. This has got the 2 ladders, humongous, just a big. But what I want everybody to see is how the ladder is covered, and the tent actually comes out over the ladder. So that way you could put an annex on there and add it to it. So on these you're able to put a few more accessories on them. And also we have, I believe it's this one right here.
That's a breezeway style.
Okay. Now talk about, and I remember when we had Justin on the other show, he talked about the materials because there's a little bit of a price difference between these 2 tents, and I know you carry these 2 tents, so that you're knowledgeable about the different materials and how they act. Because when you're buying a tent, you really got to know what it's made out of. So tell us a little bit about the difference between these 2 tents and how they're.
So really, the big difference between the 2 tents you just showed me are the form, right? The canvas itself is the same. The Rainfly is the same. Those 2 tents, it's really just the difference in form. Whether you want the covered ladder entrance or do you want a jetted Rainfly like that with spring rods. The advantage of one over the other is that the breezeway, you typically get better airflow. So folks in warmer climates have a tendency to prefer the breezeway just because the amount of airflow that you get through the tent. They are a little faster to set up because you don't have the windows on the sides that need spring rods, and you don't have the hoop that holds the canvas out over the door. But to speak to your point about the difference in materials, aside from 23-0, the thing you got to pay attention to is how the manufacturer measures the fabric, right? So that's usually a pretty good indicator. So polycotton canvas or any type of canvas. If I may be off a reservation a little bit on that, but it's measured in GSM or grams per square meter.
Okay.
So it's the weight. It's how heavy that canvas is in a square meter, right? So for instance, 230, I know the numbers off the top of my head, so I'll reference those, but they're 280 GSM poly cotton canvas. So it's a 280 grams per square meter is the weight of the fabric. Your polyester, which is still can be robust, the polyester is measured in denier. So when you see a like the Rainfly is a 600D polyester, so it's still a ripstop material. You still see the woven fibers in it, but it's noticeably different in your hand. Canvas has a really dense weave to it, where the polyester is a little thinner, not thinner. It's just the fabric in your hand feels thinner. So do your homework on the materials, and if you see something that says 600 GSM poly cotton canvas, that's not a real thing typically. That's going to be polyester. And polyester is not bad. There really are two types of fabrics for two different needs. They're both with the right treatment or waterproof. Your polyester is lighter weight, but it allows the transfer of temperature through it a lot easier. So if it's hot outside, it feels a lot hotter on the inside. If it's cold outside, you see what I'm saying? Because of the fabric, the weight of it, you're going to notice the difference in temperature between poly cotton canvas and polyester. Most of your traditional backpacking tents that that's what I started with, right?
Right.
We're a polyester.
Okay. All right. And so when you look at the tent, and this is why I always encourage people to go to stores like yours that have these where you can actually put your hands on them and feel of them. I'm a research guy, and I research everything to death before, especially if I'm paying big money for something. So if you get into tents and you're in the market for a $1,500 to anywhere $3,500, $4,000 tent, before you spend that money, I'm going to put my hands on one. I'm going to find one somewhere. And that's why, I went with our camper. When I finally found one, I saw it and I saw how it worked and saw how easy it was to open and how the inside was and all that. I was like, yeah, this is the pictures and the videos that they tell you a little bit, but they don't like all of them. They don't do them justice. You got to get there. You got to put your hands on it. You can feel that fabric of a breezeway and a walkabout and you can feel the difference in the material. I really love how the breezeways have so many windows. And I guess that's why they call them the breezeway, because you can get that airflow in there. Michael from All Over Overland just bought one, and he said, out here in Oklahoma where it gets so hot, that's what I need. And I told him, I said, you're right, because I can stay a lot warmer than I can cool off. It's so much harder to cool everything off than it is to get warmer. So you really got to think about that when you're buying a tent. So go ahead.
I was going to say, you mentioned visiting stores like ours, which is a great way to actually touch and feel these products. There's such a vast part of the country that doesn't have, a CB Adventure Supply or an Artemis Overland within a reasonable driving distance. So that's where, the expos also provide you that opportunity, right? More Expo's a prime example of that. You could walk through that place and pretty much touch and feel every tent out there on the market. And that's good, because, if you sometimes you think what is best, but until you really put your hands on them and feel the quality of you talked a lot about the canvas. touch the zippers, touch the floor, knock on the floor. You know, a lot of people don't take the floor of the tent. They kind of blow past that. You know, it's under the mattress. They don't realize. But you know, is it made of wood? Is it made of aluminum? Is there insulation in there? You know, because we talk about staying warm and keeping cool. We lose and gain temperature through the floor underneath the mattress. I'm a huge I don't like to sleep hot. You know, I have to be.
Can't sleep when I'm hot.
Yeah, I can't sleep when I'm hot. So that's one of the things that is important to me is, you know, am I going to be getting a lot of heat coming up through the floor of the tent? You know, that's one of the advantages of a rooftop tent is you're not sleeping on the ground in the hot summer months, that you have that heat coming up through the floor. So those are the types of things, right? The canvas and the rainfly, that's a big part of it. Also the bows, the hoops that hold the fabric up when you deploy the tent, those are different thicknesses. They're different diameters. You know, those are all the types of things you want to look at, because if you're making an investment, you know, you want to make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck.
Yeah. And you also got to think, there's a lot of times you're going to be in this thing and it's not going to be ideal weather. You know, one of the things I hate camping in the worst is wind. And how is this going to hold up in a 30-mile-an-hour wind? How's this going to hold up in a torrential pour down? Because like you said, if you get the cheap crossbars or the cheap bars that actually hold it up, they could bend very easily. And there you are in the middle of the night with a tent that won't stay up. What are you going to do now? And I know some people who have went through that, and you know they've had to pack up in the rain and go home because you know the wind blew this or the wind blew that or blew it over, and you know I've had my awnings fold up on me, ripped the stakes right out of the ground because the wind. If you camp on the beach, you're going to have to deal with 15, 20, 30-mile-an-hour gust wind, and you've got to make sure that you have this mindset of thinking this is not a brick house that I'm buying. This is fabric and tubes is all it is. And you've got to make sure, you know, I see guys all the time. What can I get for this? What can I get for $500? What can I get for this? Let me tell you, if you're making an investment and you're going to put your life up there, you're going to put your children up there, don't go out there and try to get the cheapest, you know, one that you could possibly find. This is your life you're dealing with. You know, it's your home. And so if you have to save up another 6 months, do it because it makes that big of a difference in getting the quality of tent, because it's not something cheap that you want to mess with.
No, it's not. And budget drives most of that, right? You know, so you know, over the last year or so, we've seen folks that have started with the cheaper tents, and there's some out there that the price point isn't always a reflection of the quality, but after they get out and they realize that, hey, they really enjoy this, but the vehicle that they're using, I'm not referencing the actual vehicle, but the tent that they're using is, whether it's the mattress or the fabric or its ability to handle high winds, you know, they're like, you know, I need to step up my game in this department. So I get it. Sometimes you got to start with a used tent off Facebook Marketplace. But ultimately, to your point, it is an investment in your overall how comfortable you're going to be and how long you can do this for long periods of time. You know, if you're going to be on the trail for, you know, a week, 7 days over spring break, that's a long time to be living out of a tent. You know, you want to be comfortable. Otherwise, you know, 3 or 4 days into it, you're ready to bail, not because anything other than the fact that you're not comfortable. Right.
What about, and tell me if you, I've got a little, the Free Spirit Recreation has got a tri-layer. And so the tents that are out there, this is their new tent that pops up on all four sides. But they've got this zip-in tri-layer that's made for a lot of their tents. And I know iCamper's got a zip-in. And how well does this insulation work? If this is something that we're going to consider going to be a factor in whether we buy this tent or not, how good does this insulation work?
So the thing you got to remember about the insulation is that insulation's not going to make it warmer. It's going to keep it warmer, if that makes sense. So if there's nothing making it warm inside the tent, there's no, it's only keeping what's originating inside. So not being an advocate for running a heater in your tent, but if you've got a way, they work as designed, right? If you can warm the air inside the tent, whether it be, one of the diesel heaters on the market or something along those lines, those insulated liners will help keep that heat in longer, right?
Okay.
And that's where the canvas versus polyester thing comes into play, because, if you're forcing warm air into the tent by whatever means, you're going to polyester, it's just going to pretty much pass right through it. The polycotton canvas will help slow that down, and then you add in an insulated liner like what you showed, and they'll keep it warmer longer. They're not going to make it warm, but they'll keep it warmer longer.
Well, you talked about putting a heater in your tent. A couple weekends ago, we went up to Rigs and Coffee up at Artemis, and there were several of us that went up there on Friday night after I worked all day. We drove up there, and it's 2 or 3 hours drive, and we got up there and it was late. And we sat around the fire and said hey to everybody and did all that, and everybody was like, oh, we got a big day tomorrow, so we're going to turn in. So they all turned in, and I had set the tent up, and I got out my little Covea heater that's got the canisters on it, and I put it all together, and I've made a little table. It's a triangle table that sits in the corner so that the heater can sit on it, so that way it doesn't have to sit on the mattress. So when we flip-flop, it don't knock the heater over. And so I get that thing up there, and it was pretty cold outside, and I get that thing up there, and I light it, and I get back out, and I'm messing with something when my wife gets up there and starts putting the bed together, and all I hear is, Joey! And I jump down off the FJ, and I run around there, and out comes a flaming heater. And let me tell you, this was a ball of fire. And apparently, I did not put the canister in there all the way and lock it down, and it was leaking. No. And when that flame finally caught what was leaking, she was in there, and she said it just bursted into flames. She just grabbed it and chunked it out. And let me tell you how good my wife is. She did not burn the tent. She did not burn any part of the door of the tent. She did not burn herself, but that thing almost hit me right square in the face. So, I mean, I realized what I had done, and she was a little bit leery about using it after that. But that's things you gotta live and learn. I gotta double check this thing next time. But
you got to be careful.
That was pretty exciting.
Oh man,
that was pretty exciting. Now, normally.
Are challenges, man.
They're challenges.
You got to be careful.
Me tell you, a buddy heater, when you knock it over, it'll go off. The Covea heater will not. And so everybody that's got a Covea heater, I've actually boiled water on this thing when we ran out of propane. You can stand it up where the heater's facing up, and I actually put water on it and boiled it, and it will not go off. It'll keep going. And normally we've got the annex. We put the heater on the ground and let it go up into the tent, and that's the safest way to do it. But I'm really gonna have to. That was user error all on my part, and I'm more than happy to share my screw ups so everybody can learn from that. But when you do that, make sure you get the bottle in there, otherwise you're gonna have a flaming ball coming at your face. And,
that's no fun.
Oh man. Okay, so moving from rooftop tents to ground tents, we had a comment back in the chat earlier, and
the one about swags.
Yeah, do you think the swags are going to make a comeback?
I think the swags have their place. I don't know that it would be considered a comeback because I don't think swags have ever really had a good foothold here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Swags are for a different type of traveler. A swag is bulky. It's not as bulky as a rooftop tent, but typically a swag is going to be a one, maybe depending on how much you like the second person with you, it's one or two people. They are comfortable. They take a little longer to set up. The poles on them do break from time to time, so it's a handoff. You're back on the ground. They do sleep pretty nicely. I've seen some where they've got big mesh windows on both sides where you can roll those up and get good ventilation. So I think that their popularity will grow. There's just not a lot of manufacturers out there that have really invested in bringing in a good offering of swags.
Right. Yeah, I haven't seen very many at all. I know Jarchi's got some out there. 230 has a tent cot of some kind that's a lot like that. And
I don't know that
that's the
he
most
still has those.
that is the most interesting looking thing I've ever seen. It looked like it was very comfortable, but it didn't fold down very small, and it was real heavy. So I didn't really see a lot of advantages on there. And you're right, the swags are pretty bulky when you fold them up because they have a mattress in them, and and you fold them all out. Everything's already put together. You've got your mattress, you've got, and some of them have a little awning on the front, and they're pretty cool. But and I know some people. Would I rather stay in that, or would I have a little bitty, something I can string up in a tree and stay in that? It's kind of a trade-off of what you want to do. But I'll show you the very first thing that me and my wife bought was the Oz tent. The Oz tent was something that we thought, we really don't want to climb up and down a ladder during the middle of the night and go to the bathroom. And, we really want to try the ground tent. And we had the 270 awning, and the awning on the RV5 would zip to the 270 awning, and you have a lot of coverage. We put the walls on it, sidewalls on it, and it was very, very comfortable. And we really liked it. The tent itself, it's a 30-second tent. So what they advertise, you can set it up in 30 seconds. But we didn't realize how big the thing was when it was folded up.
Yeah, they're not small. Yeah.
No, they're not small. And you've got to have a pretty good size front to back roof rack if you really want to tote this thing around, because it's big. But what a lot of people don't think about, and this is something that I learned the hard way, was that when you want to be comfortable in a ground tent, you've got to carry your bedding, your pillows. If you want cots, you've got to carry cots. And where are you going to carry all this stuff? And it took up a ton of room in our little vehicle when we carried the Oz tent because, we carried 2 cots, we carried 2 mattresses, we carried 2 pillows, and all that stuff had to go somewhere. And so a lot of people don't think about that. You can keep all that stuff in a rooftop tent where you can't in a ground tent. And
that's
so
very true.
It's a trade-off there. Going up and down a ladder, or how much room am I going to have in carrying all this stuff around? But that was what we started off with, and we actually still have it. We set it up every now and then, and we slept in it. I think the last time was at the Artemis Expo when it was like 1,000 degrees last July. I had my redneck air conditioner going on in there, and it kept us pretty cool. But it just seemed like it took an hour to set all this stuff up. I mean, it was just unreal, the setup time.
Yeah, it does take a while, and that's one of the advantages to the rooftop tent is that and I've heard the statements before that well, if you don't have a rooftop tent, you got so much more room on your roof rack for other things. That might be true, but you still lose a lot of space somewhere for all of the things you're going to need. And some of it, I mean, I've done, minimalist backpacking trips and things like that, where, everything you need is on your back. I get it. Is it comfortable for me at the age I am now? No. But it's anything's possible, right? It's just, it's everything's a trade-off. It's like, what do you want to give up to have comfort? There's always, it's like marriage, right? It's give and take.
yeah, you're right. There's a lot of trade-off with it. Another type of ground tent that's out there is the Gazelle's really popular. Again, are extremely easy setup, but there again, it's a trade-off. All the things that go inside of it that you're going to have to use to sleep on to make yourself comfortable, it's got to go somewhere. And another one that is making waves, and I'm seeing advertised a whole lot, are these. And let me tell you, these are interesting to me. And the reason they're interesting to me, this is the inside of this tent, and it has a wood burning stove, which I absolutely think is so stinking cool.
Yeah.
This is a modular wood stove that folds down flat. You put it together. Of course, you got to carry the pipe somewhere, but I just think that is just so stinking cool. Of course, bushcrafting to me is very interesting, but I can't imagine how long it takes to set all this stuff up.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Well, so with any kind of ground tent that's going to give you quite a bit of space, even the Gazelles, you have a bunch of guy wires that need to go out. We use a Gazelle for my daughters. It gives them the ability to be able to set up their own tent. We're trying to teach them, responsibility on that stuff. And you get a hard enough blast of wind on the side of one of those things. If you don't have those wall panels guide out, it'll pop them right in, and the Oz tent's another one, to get the rain flies and the awning, that there's pegs that need to go in the ground. I mean, so
that thing's got 1,000 pegs.
It does. It comes with its own bag. Neat. Yeah.
I think I've got about 70 little Oz tent bags, because every time you buy something with them, it's got its own little bag for stakes, own little bag for the little orange cords. And let me tell you, when we take that Oz tent out, I think my wife is hammering pegs for an hour at least, because she believes that if there is a place for a stake, you've got to put one in it. And so let me tell you, she is the hammer queen when it comes to the Oz tent stakes. Yeah. It's great. We are actually looking to get Gazelle makes a it's not a tent, but it's the what do you call it, where it just has the walls.
Yeah, you're talking about like the screened in room.
Yeah, the screen room. It doesn't have a floor, but it's the screen room, because we go camping a lot where there's bugs like crazy. And that would be a great way to get away from them, and where you can actually get outside. One thing I see people say all the time is, I don't care how cold it is, I can get my tent warm, or I don't care, I can do this. Well, I'm not going camping to stay 24 hours in the tent. I want to be outside. And that will allow you to actually get out and experience nature, with a little bit more than just being holed up in your tent if the bugs are bad. So we're actually looking at one of those. I think that'll be a pretty good investment for us. Another range of tents that I want to talk about, and this is your rig here, the CB Adventure Supply rig. It's known all over the world. Every time you see it, people say, "Oh, that's CB. That's Ryan. He's trucking down the road with the turtleback." Is the trailer tents. There's a ton of people making trailers now, and it's amazing. It's just like rooftop tent companies. There's a new trailer company, starting up all the time. But you can either get a tent that can be replaced on your trailer, or you can get one that's made onto the trailer, a lot like the Patriot campers.
Yeah.
Patriot campers are completely different, but this tent is actually made onto the trailer, and replacing this tent would be a little more of a chore than replacing yours. Comes with the annex is already made onto it. It's really neat how it's completely open, but that's a completely different rooftop tent, as you might call it, than just the regular tent that's on a trailer.
Yeah, the trailers that have an integrated sleeping system, you've got to make sure you're 100% happy with it, because like you said, it's not something where you when you've purchased the trailer that you can go back to it and say, I'd rather do something different. I know that there's a way with the Patriot, I believe, on the X1, like you've got in the picture there, where you can remove that and mount a roof rack and put a traditional style rooftop tent on there. But there's no recouping the cost. You couldn't say, couldn't be, well, I've got an iCamper and I want, a 23-0 or something like that, and just sell off the tent. That's just not a reality.
Right. Yeah, I think if I remember right, everybody knows Marco. Marco that travels around with Trail Recon. I believe he's got a hard shell tent on top of his Patriot trailer, and so it's just completely different. Now Herb, I know Herb. He's a good buddy down in South Louisiana, where it stays like 1,000 degrees, and there's mosquitoes bigger than trucks down there. He wants to know about your take on tents that fit inside the truck beds.
I think they're a great idea. And for someone who's already got a truck, I've known several people that have used them. I think they work really well. You just got to they take a little bit longer to set up, like a ground tent does. So, if you're going to be rolling in late at night and then setting it up and then leaving first thing in the morning, it's a little bit labor intensive. But other than that, they work really well. You're utilizing space. Now, the thing you got to think about with truck bed tents, and this kind of goes along with sleep inside trailers, is that because that's typically where you're going to carry all your gear, you're going to have to unload the back of the truck to set up your bed.
Right.
So whatever you got in there, you need to make sure it's modular, right? Storage totes, cases, whatever it is. So you can easily remove that from the bed of the truck and to set up your bed. If you got a bunch of loose stuff back there, it's going to take you longer. So aside from that, having to empty the bed of the truck to sleep back there, truck bed tents, or, I know a very salty fellow who had a, Lear camper shell on the back of his truck, and he made a sleeping system back there that, he had the gull wing windows on the side of the camper. So he would just open those up, and he had a mattress back there, and that's where he kept all his bedding, had drawers underneath it, and he slept in there.
That's cool. That's cool. Very cool. Carrying on with the trailer tents. This is the Patriot's new X3, which you actually sleep inside of this camper. So that's a little bit different, but that still would be considered a rooftop tent. And this here is Howling Moon's trailer tent. So it's actually a tent that's made for trailers. It actually covers an open area of the trailer and has an awning on both sides. So, and has other rooms that you can attach to it. So it's another option that's out there. South African.
Easy On had something like that also. They had Turtleback was using it for a while on one of their getaway adventure or getaway trail. And it was kind of all integrated into the trailer. It was still bolted onto the top of it, but it kind of had that same layout where the whole thing kind of rolled out, the annex and everything kind of all folded out. So that way there wasn't an extra room like you or I would have to attach to our tent. It just kind of all flopped down and the ladder hooked up.
That's cool. That's cool. One setup that I forgot to mention when we were talking about the ground tents is the ARB rooms. Those are Those are really cool, easy to set up. If you have just a regular straight ARB, or tons of people make them now, just the straight 10
Pull
by
out
10
awnings.
or 8 by 8, the pull out awning. They've got rooms that attach to those. I slept in one of those when it was, I believe it was 6 degrees outside and snowing. And let me tell you, those things are thinner than paper, and you got to have a good heater if you're going to sleep in the winter. But we slept in the summer, and there's good airflow because every one of the doors around zips open, and it's got mesh screens. So those are actually a good option, and they're fairly cheap. $200-$300. You've got a really good setup there. But you run into, if you want to go somewhere, you got to take it all up, pack it all up, just like a rooftop tent. So it's a little bit different option. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because a lot of people don't cover this when they're visiting, is bedding in tents. We talked about if you got a ground tent, you got to have a mattress of some kind, or cots or something like that. But even the rooftop tents, I've seen so many complaints about how horrible the mattresses are and how bad the mattresses are. And let me tell you, I am here as a witness. My iCamper mattress is horrible. It's horrible. Spent 2 weeks in that thing in Colorado, and I was telling Ryan a while ago before the show started, my hips would hurt every day, and I would get up, and it would take 20 minutes before I could feel my feet. It was just a horrible experience. So, what are you seeing in the tents that you carry as far as mattresses go, and what are you hearing from your customers about the mattresses and the tents you sell?
So mattresses, in my opinion, is it's kind of a subjective subject. I don't know if that makes sense. Those words don't belong together, but more or less what I feel is a good mattress isn't always what you are going to feel is good mattress. So hence the reason when you go shop for a mattress for your home, right? Typically you go to a mattress store, right? And they've got all these different mattresses from, like Goldilocks style, from soft all the way to firm, right? Well, it's kind of, when it comes to a rooftop tent, they can't really have that ability to have a selective mattress for you. So they kind of have to throw a dart and say, all right, this is middle of the road. You want firm but soft. You don't want. So with any rooftop tent, regardless of brand, the objective is to make it comfortable enough that you can sleep without feeling the floor, right? Because that floor is a hard flat surface right underneath you. So there's a couple of different ways you can attack that. You firm up the mattress. You don't feel the floor, but it's too hard. Some do anti-condensation mats underneath, and some of that's for condensation resistance, to fight the condensation. Well, it's not to fight the condensation, sorry, it's to keep it from getting absorbed by the mattress, but it also adds a layer. But anything you add into the tent is also going to take away from the ability to close the tent in some instances. Right. So I would say, most out there, for the most part, they're all like a closed cell foam mattress. 230 has what they call rebound foam, and the rebound foam, when you push into it and you move your hand away, it is quick to bounce back to its original form, which is nice because when you flop around inside of your tent while you're sleeping, you're not going to roll back into a hole that you made 10 minutes ago when you moved. And if you make the mattress too soft, you're going to sink right into it. So I would say in the mattress category, people always ask, well, what's the best mattress, in a rooftop tent? I want the one with the most comfortable mattress. Well, that's a preference, right? Yeah. Like I said, what I find comfortable, I think the 230 mattress is the bee's knees, but somebody else, I've heard several comments before where they're like, it's too firm, it's too hard. Well, you need it to be firm and hard, or you're going to feel the floor through the.
You're going to be sleeping on the aluminum floor.
Right, exactly. So, and that's, having some people throw egg crates on top of there. Some people,
Mhm.
take that mattress out and do an X-Ped like you have.
Yeah.
I think it really is, what is the user most comfortable with? And
Right.
some of that requires us as the consumer to make some changes to the product to make it work for us and make it where we're comfortable.
Right. And I don't think there is a one size fits all when it comes to
Mhm.
mattresses. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many choices if you went to, like you said, a mattress store. For us, we did go with the X-Bed Mega Mat. It's memory foam and inflatable. So 4 inches of getting us up off the floor, and it's night and day. And I want to stress this to everybody. If you don't like the mattress in your tent, get one you like, because
Mhm.
there's nothing worse than going camping and not being able to sleep. You're just miserable. You don't want to
Mm-mm.
be there, and you'll pack up and go home, and the whole experience is ruined. So you've got to be able to rest. You've got to do something to be able to get that good night's sleep and enjoy yourself. Um, Otherwise, you're not going to want to go, and you'll just give it up.
Yeah.
So find something out there that you can get. One thing that I do recommend, if you think your mattress is too hard, I found, and this is what we got before we got the X bed that we put on our mattress. It was a 1 inch inflatable dual mattress, so it was double size. It fit in our iCamper just perfect, and it was only 1 inch thick. So we were able to deflate it and leave it in the
Oh,
iCamper
nice.
folded up in there, and it was self-inflating. So that gave us 1 inch of air on top of 2 inches of mattress. So that made all the difference in the world. And it was
Yeah.
only like $50 or $60 on Amazon. So that's a
Yeah.
good option if you're not really, satisfied with your
Yeah.
mattress. That might give you a little bit of a different way to sleep on it. And what one thing that I'm very interested in how they thought about it in their thought process. But the Free Spirit hard shell tents don't have a floor, and that just blows my mind. They don't have a hard floor. Did you know this?
I did not know
Okay,
this.
so last time I was up at Artemis, he got one of the new. It was the wedge. It's the
Uh-huh.
side wedge.
Yeah.
Free Spirit tent. I think I've got. It's this one right here. So it's this tent right here. It's got the very bottom of it is made with the same material that the cover on a soft shell. If you get a soft shell tent, it's made with the
Yeah.
same as their cover, but it's got like 2 or 3 straps that go underneath it that give it support. But the mattress is like free floating, and so you don't
Huh.
have that hard base under there. And it was a
That's
completely
interesting.
different feel. Completely different feel.
I bet it was. It's like you're suspended in a hammock in a way.
Yeah, it was almost like being in a
Yeah.
hammock.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Now, if you're wanting to get up and move around in there, it's a really different feel. But once you lay down and get and once you lay down and get situated, it was really comfortable. I'm interested to see how those last.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
having
the
that.
longevity on something like that I'd want to see how
Yeah, me
that plays
too.
out.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that. But
So
that is an interesting concept.
while we're on the subject of adding something to your mattress, I thought I'd throw something at you that uh, I've learned through customers and my own experiences. People, when they do a topper or something to put on top of their mattress, their natural instinct is to go to memory foam. It's comfortable, right? I love it at home. Well, there's two things about memory foam. I think there's two, maybe three, that you got to take into consideration. First off, memory foam, when it's cold, gets extremely hard.
Hmm.
So it changes with the temperature. Again, with temperature, memory foam retains heat really easily. So if you're like me or yourself, where you tend to like to sleep cooler, right? You don't want to be hot. Memory foam will take your body heat and it'll absorb that, and it'll keep you hotter. So
Whoa.
I prefer, when people ask us about mattress toppers, I tend to direct them towards something that's got a foam in it. You don't want memory foam. You want like a closed cell foam.
Right.
To add to it, or even a pillow top. The challenge with the pillow top mattress covers is that they are super thick, and they don't compress down because they're a synthetic material inside there. So again, and that's kind of like with blankets, adding blankets and keeping those in while you close them up. A synthetic blanket is bulkier than, say, like a down blanket. Down blankets, or down sleeping bags, right? You can compress them into a bag that big.
Right.
And when you're closing up your rooftop tent, those are the types of things to consider about the type of bedding that you're putting in there. Your grandmother's quilt may not be the best thing to put inside there because it's not going to fold down and compress easily when you go to close the tent.
Interesting. That's very cool. Now, we do have a question on the screen asking about a moisture barrier. What do you recommend if you've got an aluminum bottom tent like what I've got? It does condensate in there. Is there any type of material or something that you can put down to help that, keep that?
No. So condensation, it's the reality of it, right? So the only thing you can do is increase the airflow in the tent, right?
Okay.
That's so moisture is, there's two reasons why moisture is like super prevalent in a rooftop tent. One is you're running a heater. A byproduct of combustion is moisture, right? So that's number one. And you got to think, when it's cold outside and you're breathing warm, moist air inside, right? Your body's putting moisture into the air. That condensation is going to condense on the walls, on the floor. There's just nothing you can do about that except increase the airflow. So opening the windows, even if it's cold outside, get a warmer blanket, and unzip your windows. That'll help with the condensation. There's nothing you can really put in to stop that condensation. And that's where people think that the anti-condensation mats, which is a bad name in my opinion, will help combat condensation. It doesn't. What that does is that provides a air chamber between the mattress and the floor, so that way your mattress isn't going to absorb the condensation that builds up on the floor. Right. So an anti-condensation mat doesn't combat it. It just makes it to where your mattress isn't going to absorb it. So you're not, producing, you don't want your mattress staying wet and damp, right? It's going to get moldy and nasty and smelly, like your basement.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it never fails. It doesn't matter the temperature outside or the temperature in the tent. Everything seems to get damp at some point. So airflow is key. Airflow is key. And even if you have to bring it back home, set it up for a day, let that sucker air out, do it, because you're going to let everything dry out. It's going to last longer. It's not going to stink. And so it's, Jeff says, electric heaters dry out.
Yeah, I saw,
so if you have
I saw that.
Heater.
Well, even some of the new diesel heaters that you're seeing pop up, those, because of the way they're heating the air, right? They've got a heat exchanger inside there. So it's got a fan that's blowing air across a heat exchanger that it will dry the air out. And I've heard from people who've used them that they'll wake up with no condensation on the walls. Electric heater, that pulls a lot of power. So if you're in a place where you've got power, that would be a viable option. But people tend to be leaning on these diesel heaters, and I haven't personally used one. I've seen a few on customers' trailers and vehicles that they brought into the shop, and I mean, they look great. I think that's probably going to be a new thing that you see everybody having, is these portable diesel heaters. I've seen guys take Zargis cases and mount those diesel heaters inside the Zargis case, because you don't have a trailer, right? But you have a case, you can throw it on the roof or in the back, and, you take it out, you plug it in, it runs off 12 volt, I think it'll run like almost 20 hours on a single gallon of diesel or something crazy like that. So
it's crazy. Well, we just purchased one. It's sitting in the living room. I haven't figured it out yet. They're kind of complicated. So you've got to take your time and try to decipher how you want everything to mount and do all that. And I actually bought one that's already in the case, so I wouldn't actually have 500 pieces and try to put it together. But still, they're awfully complicated, and we're going to take our time and so I don't burn something down and try to figure them out. So we're getting kind of to the end, but I want you to talk about what are some of the accessories that you have on your rooftop tent that you just love, that you can't live without.
So probably the thing I couldn't live without the most is lights. Yeah.
Revel lights, baby.
Those Revel lights are awesome.
Love them.
They don't draw much power at all. I mean, you can literally run those things off of like those cell phone charging power blocks, and they'll run
that's
for
what they look like.
An entire weekend of camping off one charge on those things. And those are surprisingly long, 30 feet. You don't think about that? Holy cow.
Yeah,
those things are long. So we've got a walkabout series that has the overhang over the ladder, and we'll take our Revel lights and we'll run them through the straps around the edge, and it gives a nice good ambient light, and they don't draw much power, so you can dim them down before you go to bed but leave them on. So if you do wake up in the middle of the night and need to exit the tent, you're not exiting into the darkness or fumbling around looking for your flashlight. So the Revel lights are awesome. Hardcore makes a really good clip-on light that actually attaches to the bows on the inside of your tent. And the thing I like about their light is it comes with a dimmer. So you have the ability to switch between white and orange light, as well as dim the light down. 230 has some really awesome solar tent lights as well. Those are cool. I would say the next thing, like rooftop tent accessory, would be the gear loft that hangs between the bows and the roof, because I like it because usually, especially in the colder months, you get up there, you have, a hoodie or a jacket on, and, you've got, a couple of, maybe a sweatshirt or whatever. It gives you a place to store it where it's not in your sleeping area. So you can kind of tuck it up out of the way. I'll hang my glasses on them when I take them off at night, as well as stick my phone inside of there. So
I went full bore redneck on one of those, and went to Wally World and got a over in the automotive section. You can always see these backseat organizers, organizers, and that, and about 4 carabiners, and you can hook it to any bar up there and put everything up there, and it's so nice not having to fumble around in the dark trying to find your cell phone, trying to find your socks that you took off or your shirt that you took off. You can put it all up in there, and it makes it so nice. Anytime you can do anything like that, it makes it easier on you.
It does. And that's what, along your creative engineering, something else that is a really cool, just wouldn't even think about it. My daughter plays violin. That's how I know about this. And that's where I got the idea. They have, the music stand that holds your music while you're playing. Well, they make these little clamp on trays that go underneath that have a cup holder and a little platform. They work perfect on the bows of a rooftop tent because they have a little screw knob that tighten them down. So you can put it in the tent when you set it up, and it gives you a place to put a bottle of water. You can put your keys and your phone on it. And they're like $12 or $13 online or at your local music store. They're cheap, and it really gives you a nice, good platform to set things on inside the tent if you're going to be up there for a little bit.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
One thing, and I'm trying to find I'm trying to get the link to the Revel lights there, Lester, I can post that on there. I've got these. I think they're made by Wagon. These little lights here. I really like these lights. They've got a hook. They got a hook on them so you can hang them. And one thing I like about these is they've got that's magnets on the back, so I could take these and I could stick them on my vehicle anywhere and have light. And I love this part. The cord to charge them is made onto the light, so I won't lose my cord because you've got 50 million cords everywhere and you don't know what goes to what, so it just wraps around the light, stays on the light. And I've got another one. This is a little bit bigger one here, so you've got the light like a flashlight, and then you can pull it and it makes like a lantern.
Lantern, those are
same
nifty.
same type deal.
What brand are those?
These are Wagon.
Wagan?
Wagan.
I'll have to look
Wagan
into
Tech. Wagan Tech. These are really cool. And the reason that I bought them is because of the magnet. Because anytime I'm cooking on the back, I can stick these back there. I can stick them on the back of the door. We take them in the annex. You can stick them on the vehicle, and they hang or stick anywhere. And another thing, this is one of my favorites. Check this out. I found this fan. This is a cheap Chinese Amazon fan. Okay. So it's got a light on it.
Oh, wow.
It's got a 3-stage fan. And it's got these things that you can fold down and wrap around anything. So we can take this.
Is it battery powered?
It's battery powered and rechargeable. So it comes with a cord and is rechargeable. So we can hang this up. This actually goes like this, so you can hang it flat. It's about $28 on Amazon. Just put it up in there and wrap it around. You've got a light and you've got a fan all in one.
That's interesting.
So, I tell you what, I was very, very excited. 3-stage fan, and it blows hard. And I can't figure out how to turn the stupid thing off. There we go. But I was really. Jo says I need the link to that fan. I'll try to put that on there because let me tell you, I'm in love with this fan. I'm like you, Ryan. I cannot sleep when I'm hot, and if it's above 75 degrees, I want a fan on. So I've got that thing. It'll run 8 hours on simple charge, and it's got the light. So if you want something simple to put up in your rooftop tent, that is definitely something that you want to look into, because everything that I buy, Connie says that Bruiser's got his own fan, and he does. But everything that I buy, I try to make sure that it's got multiple uses, because I've got a real small vehicle and I can't have a whole bunch of gear in there. So if I can buy a light and a fan in one, hey, I've done something there. And what's really cool is one of the most unused spaces in your vehicle is right behind the headrest. And so you can take those wraparound things, put it around there and store it right behind your headrest when you're going down the road. And so it's a great place to store it. Oh man, what a good informational show, man. I appreciate you
I
so
enjoyed
much
it,
for
man.
being on here. Your knowledge is just overwhelming, and I know that everybody is just blown away. And I know that they're all probably going to CB Adventure Supply right now. That's probably why I can't get on the website. It's probably locked up from everybody getting on there.
Oh man.
But hey, everybody, check out Ryan at CB Adventure Supply on Instagram, CB Adventure Supply on Facebook. Follow their adventures. These are not just people who own a store. They actually live this life. They go out and pull that turtleback trailer all over creation, and you'll want to follow them and see what they're doing. Man, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much
for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it, Joey. It's there's a reason why we do what we do. It's because we enjoy helping people figure out what the right gear for them is, because what is the right fit for you isn't necessarily the right fit for someone else. So I actually get enjoyment out of sitting here talking with folks like yourself about the inner workings of with the different types of gear out there. And so
I do too. I'm a gear junkie. I can fiddle with it and talk about it and purchase it all day. And so it's just something that I enjoy doing. And guys like you, who just not out there to sell a product, you're out there to help people. And I think that makes a difference. And I want everybody to know that. Shop local, and shop from those,
Mm-hmm.
buy from those people who actually want what's best for you and not just want to sell something so they can put money in their pocket. Man, I appreciate everybody for joining us tonight. If you tuned in, I appreciate you very much. We enjoyed having you. I enjoyed talking to you, Ryan. Everybody, we're gonna kick it off. We're gonna probably get us some dinner and say hi to our wives, because our wives are missing us like crazy. Whatever you do, go out, get outside, leave it better than you found it. Have a great week.